me feeling like I'm academics.
Rappers. It's all coming out, chat. It's all coming out. One by one. Yes. No, I'm coming back to that. Definitely.
Looksmaxing can be as simple as losing weight, right? So even going on a diet, which I'm sure is something that you've done previously, is part of looksmaxing. It's not just these super intensive plastic surgeries or these cosmetic procedures. It's just anything that's going to improve your looks.
Well, I've never been on a diet. One.
What?
Secondly,
No
I have recently lost 5 kilos. Well, recently I've lost 5 kilograms because I managed to break my femur and have a hip replacement. And so I've not been drinking and I've been eating quite healthily. And it's amazing. The weight just drops off. So I'm somebody who likes to drink. Yeah, well, it's not a diet. It's an enforced regime that's come about through an injury, right? So a diet is a...
That's
a diet is a voluntary...
That's literally a diet.
Well, it's that. Well, no, it's not, because a diet is a voluntary regime you go into for no other reason than you want to lose weight. I went into an
Yeah, maybe my boy is drugged up. Yo, he be blinking like 4,000 times a minute.
Voluntary regime forced upon me by circumstance of a fracture.
It doesn't matter how it's forced upon you.
Well,
any sort of deviation.
One is voluntary.
No, it doesn't matter if it's voluntary or not. It's a deviation from your normal routine, right? Whether or not you're forced to be in a caloric deficit or not, it's still a diet, you know, like, and, you know, regardless, it doesn't really matter. You've done a calorie deficit before. That can be something that's considered looksmaxing. So by definition, Piers, you are a looksmaxer. You're just someone who is kind of on the surface level of it, right? I'm saying that in such a competitive dating market, you might need to take it a step further and sort of maybe utilize some peptides, maybe get a little bit leaner than, you know, your current body fat percentage. That's kind of all I'm saying.
Right, but I mean, I might argue that I'm mogging you right now.
Okay, well, you know, that's a fair perspective. Go for it.
For those who don't know what I've just said, what does mogging mean?
Basically outshining someone, looking better than them. And there's different types of mogs, right? There's status mogs, there's, you know, money mogs. So, you know, you might have me in those categories, but I think we need to add in a little bit of nuance that it's not a looks mog, you know?
So you would say that you have the edge over me in looks mogging?
I think I might have you by just a small margin. I don't know, but that could be attributed to youth, you know? So
yeah, but youth
who knows?
Isn't
Back
always
in the
everything.
day,
Youth. A lot of women find the older dude. A lot of women find the older dude more appealing than the young pimply youth. You know.
well, you know, absolutely. But I would say for the most part, looks are an extremely objective thing, and that's sort of what I'm trying to, you know, push people towards realizing is that, well, you might not know these facial ratios that make someone attractive and harmonious or not. They're subconscious, right? And everyone is judging you based off of them, and it's not something that's within anyone's control. So simply being able to identify them and improve upon them is a very beneficial thing.
Okay, well, let's have a look at you before you started all this, and we'll compare to what you look like now. So there's the before and after. What age were you in the before picture? Can you see that where you are?
Yeah, I would have been 16 years old.
And the one on the right is what are you now? You're 20?
Yeah.
So you've been
Well,
through
that would have been
obviously
when I
a
was 19,
transformation.
I believe.
Okay, so you've been through a big physical transformation, that's clear. Your face has changed dramatically. So what have you done to your face to look max yourself?
It's a lot of pharmaceutical intervention, especially during puberty, right? So this is going to be the time where it's most important for people to optimize sort of their growth mechanisms and their growth pathways. And, you know, a few of the ways I did this is with exogenous hormones like testosterone, like human growth hormone. I did things like block aromatase, which is testosterone converting into estrogen so that I would actually grow taller. So there's plenty of different mechanisms that I leverage to sort of masculinize myself a little bit more, and to become a little bit bigger. So, it would just take me so long to go through every little step that I took to looksmax.
Okay, but then there's a harder degree called hard maxing, which is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your lingo, not mine, which is often surgical or invasive methods to alter appearance, fillers, implants, plastic surgery. So a more dramatic way to use surgical enhancement. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes.
Have you done much hard maxing to yourself?
Well, a lot of people consider anabolic steroids to be within the hard maxing category, and I've done things like Botox. But in terms of like actual surgical osteotomies, rhinoplasties, I haven't done that. It's just more so about pharmacology.
Have you partaken in mewing, a technique involving specific tongue posture to improve your jawline structure?
I have participated in mewing, and the whole idea behind mewing is that it should be your natural tongue position, right? That basically means that your palate has enough space to accommodate your tongue, and that you've got proper development. And this also, is going to help you with focusing on nose breathing, which, during your development is one of the key things for looksmax. There's not much you can do after you've already developed improperly, but mewing is going to be one of those things that's absolutely required during the youth.
Where do you come up with these phrases? I mean, I've got two Burmese cats. They mew, they meow. That's what I perceive to be mewing. Where do you get this lingo from?
So a lot of the lingo comes from forums over the years. This was a very niche part of the internet for a while, and this was one of the techniques from Dr. Mike Mew that became very popular. I would say that this is kind of just like the most surface level form of looksmaxing that's sort of been known, throughout internet spaces since, really about 2016, I would say. But like the more hardcore forms of looksmaxing weren't really discovered and weren't really in the mainstream until a little bit later on.
See, there'll be people watching this who've never heard of you go, why are you giving all this airtime to this guy? It's all quite interesting, but what's special about you, right? And I would argue the reason the New York Times did a big profile on you is that you're now making, it is reported, at least $100,000 a month from your daily stream, which often involves hours and hours of you just streaming whatever you're up to. And I presume you'll include, your impressions of how our interview goes, for example. It is fascinating to me that someone like you at your age can come and become a millionaire really by just using a load of phraseology combined with, I guess, self-improvement. Nothing new about self-improvement, but you're combining the two and what young people perceive to be a cool way, which you have tapped into, which is very lucrative. That is why you're interesting, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't really think it comes down to the finances. That's sort of something that has been, really pushed in the media for some reason. But I don't think that social media money in this day and age should really be that surprising to people. I think there's content creators who are a lot better off than me financially. So I'm kind of just shocked that people cared about that headline so much. And the thing is, Piers, simply what I'm saying is, my life is kind of on a one-to-one linear timeline with my exact ideologies that improving your looks is going to have a direct correlation with improvement in your life, right? So sort of as soon as I started really ascending and really getting into those high percentile looks, look at what happened to my life, right? I became that millionaire, I became famous, and a lot of things just started going really well for me. Who knows if this
So his thing is that many people, especially red pill people, say guys just try to get rich. His thing, and basically saying, of course you should be in shape, this and third, but genetics and trying to look, more handsome doesn't really matter. Money rules all. And his thing is looks rules all, even over money. And you should try to maximize your looks, because when you look good and you're appealing physically, money comes easier. And then that combined with money, you're unstoppable.
Would have happened if I were, in the lower percentiles of looks. Maybe some of it could be attributed to charisma, to my personality and uniqueness. But I would say for the most part, this wouldn't be possible. This generational run, as they like to say, would not have been possible without the looks.
You mentioned your charisma. Another phrase is jester maxing, the act of using humor, clowning, or absurd behavior to gain attention from women. That's just chatting them up, isn't it? And having the old gift of the gab.
No, I think jester maxing is its own category, right? Being funny, that's not necessarily jester maxing. I would say that jester maxing, a lot of the times it's like that kind of self-deprecating humor, someone cracking an egg on their head or something like that and saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm such an idiot," or something in front of girls. So it's its own very unique thing. Just being a clown and, stuff like that. I think everyone knows a jester when they see it. And sort of once you know this terminology, you're going to be able to use it in your day-to-day life quite perfectly.
Have you managed to seduce many women by cracking eggs on yourself?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced jester maxing is the way to go. Slay maxing.
No. I'm anti-jester maxing. Yeah.
Oh, you're anti.
No.
I beg your.
Yeah. Jester maxing is a very
you agree with me?
Term. Yes. No, I agree with you. Absolutely.
Jester maxing is it. I'm sorry. I've got this on my rant. So jester maxing is an insult.
Oh yeah. No, the last thing you want to do is be a jester. Very last thing.
Got it. Slay maxing, that means to have sex, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the significance of using the word slay?
Slay is just sort of a term that we use on the forums for having sex with a girl, because a lot of people would directly correlate success in their ascension with success with females, right? So getting a slay was sort of like the ultimate pursuit for looks maxers. I think it goes a whole lot deeper than this. I think a lot of it, and the reasoning that you should looks max is just overall quality of life stuff. But, improvements in the whole dating scene is certainly something that we've seen. So that's kind of just placing like a value or, just being able to gauge your successes.
And your argument is, as you've pursued this looks maxing campaign for yourself, you've become more attractive and you've had more women.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in that sense, you're very different to someone like Nick Fuentes, who told me proudly that he's a virgin. He's never had sex.
Right. Well, I don't really understand why it's so, controversial to say that when, that's for religious reasons, right? I seriously doubt that you would ever say that to someone who is of the Islamic faith, someone saying that they're reserving themselves for marriage. I think,
Yeah, I would.
You would probably be screwed in media if you were to use that same argument against the Muslim that you did against Nick, simply because he's Catholic.
But hang on, it wasn't. I didn't use it as an argument. I just asked him if it was true. I didn't care either way. It doesn't bother me.
No, you knew what you were doing.
It's just interesting to me that. Well, what do you think I was doing?
You were trying to make him look bad and sort of use the whole thing of him never having sex with a woman as some sort of like insult or some sort of way for you to, make him look bad. And it was just a little ridiculous.
Well, actually, all I said to him was, do you think you'd be less intense about everything if you just got laid? I was just having a bit of fun with it. I was doing a bit of jester maxing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's just attacking someone based on their, religious beliefs. And I don't really think that makes any sense.
You don't think Nick Fuentes ever does that?
Well, this is about you. If you want to morally grandstand over people,
Piers is really shrewd. I'll give him that. If you know the history of Piers Morgan, he was on mainstream TV, got it kicked off. It was the whole Meghan Markle saga. He kind of started up the internet thing, and he kind of blew up, and he did it at the right time, right when mainstream media was about to die down. That's why he has one of the biggest shows.
Oh, just because he did it, does that mean I can do it? Like that argument?
No. It's not morally grandstanding, but it's not.
No, it is.
Hang on. I wasn't morally. I'm not morally grandstanding, but I do think if somebody, for example, like him, has been very critical of people who are Jewish, for example, and have a Jewish faith, what's wrong with questioning him with his faith? And by the way, his faith is the same as mine. He's a Christian. I'm a Catholic, right? And I had no problem with his answer. I was just curious what kind of person he is. I'm curious what kind of person you are. What's interesting is you're clearly very different people, because I'm going to come to the van where you're all in the same van. And I'm sort of scratching my head as to what you guys have in common. I just don't see that you have much in common with someone like Fuentes, or why you would think it would benefit you to be seen with him in the way. In fact, let's come to it, because it was quite interesting. One of the few controversial things, genuinely, I think you've been involved with was this scene in Miami when you're in a van with the Tate brothers, with Nick Fuentes, with Sneeko. When you watch that video, are you comfortable about that?
Well, listen, Piers, historically, you've, kind of been talking about this whole thing with Ye for a little while. So I've actually got a Ye thing as well for you. So why would you go to that island, Piers?
Which island?
You know what I mean? So that's the point.
Hang on. Wait. No. Wait a minute. Which island? You mean the Epstein Island? Obviously, I've never been there, never met Epstein, never had any connection with him, not in the Epstein files other than references to being at lunches and things that have nothing to do with him. Well, no, you can go read them. The beauty of the Epstein files, you can go and check my name. You can read every entry. You'll see none of them have anything to do with him or his activities or anything. I'm just mentioned in passing as having been at completely unconnected events. So there's nothing to do with that. I met Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, I'm about to come to that. So I was pictured with her. Okay, I was pictured with her at a book launch for 5 minutes. I've talked about it. She admitted that under oath. The only time we'd ever met was for 5 minutes. So I have no connection to that scandal at all, other than I once met her for 5 minutes at a book launch. So let me come back to you in the van with the Heil Hitler song playing.
Well, this is like a little bit ridiculous. Because you're with
hang on.
Piers, you're with the number one.
I'm going to finish my question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Let me finish my question. I'm just curious, because Ye has now publicly apologized
why'd you go to that island?
For all his anti-Semitic behavior and language in a full-page advertisement he took out in a newspaper. That came after the thing with the van. You've seen Andrew Tate trying to backtrack from what happened there. Fuentes doubles down because that's what he does about everything. He views it all probably as a bit of a joke and it doesn't matter. Sneeko, I don't think really matters. He's not significant in the way I think that you are in terms of influence. But I look at you there and you've got a guy behind you literally doing the Nazi salute as Heil Hitler plays in this van. A song that basically pays... Well, hang on. A song that pays tribute. Well, you're singing along to the song, and it pays tribute to the most genocidal monster of the last 100 years. And I'm just curious whether you think it's funny, whether you now regret being put in that position, whether you wish you hadn't been so enthusiastic about singing along to that song, or whether you don't care at all. And I don't have a fixed answer for you. I'm just curious what you genuinely feel.
Well, the thing is, Piers, I'm not political and I didn't play the song, so that's kind of all there is to it, right? And I find it quite silly to me that you're with the number one looksmaxer, and instead of asking how you could ascend so that, your wife wouldn't tweet out captions like, when my husband's away, Mr. Sud comes out to play, maybe if you asked me how to ascend, then that would stop happening to you. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're distracting, and that's fine. You're having your fun. I've got no problem with that. But just to be clear, you were in a van singing along to Heil Hitler. Do you regret doing that?
Well, I didn't play it, right? So it's like if someone were to come next to you in the street and play a song, it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know why you're trying to get political with me. And this is exactly what I mean by your production. Wait, listen.
No.
This is. I've got nothing to do with it.
I'm just curious.
I've got nothing to do with it.
Well,
so
you're singing along.
I really have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. And this is what I mean, right? So you basically lied to, my PR team that you wanted to come and interview me about looksmaxing. And this is what you do, right?
I've literally spent the first. I spent the first. Well, hang on. Stop being such a baby. I spent the first half hour of the interview taking you seriously about all the looksmaxing thing. I find it genuinely interesting. I find it also interesting.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Hang
on. Let me finish my point. All right, let's try and keep things civil. There's no reason not to be. I'm just bemused why you would want to be associated with those other guys, most of whom have doubled and trebled down on it, who don't care. They don't mind idolizing Hitler. They think it's funny. They joke about the Holocaust and so on. I'm not sure you're that kind of person, but you have a chance to tell me whether you are, right? You were in this.
I just told you, I'm not political.
Well, it's pretty political to chant Heil. Well, to sing to a song called Heil Hitler, you're being political. It's like I don't know why you're trying to make me this political figure when it's something that I've tried so hard to avoid. It's like I want to talk about looksmaxing, but my position on everything is like I'm not going to be scared to collaborate with people. That's something that was good for my career objectively, to collab with bigger creators. It's like just as I would with any leftist. Like it really doesn't make any sense for you to do this whole jester max where you're trying to make me this like right-wing guy when I'm not joking.
Straight up.
I'm literally doing. I'm actually literally.
Well, no.
Hang on. I'm literally doing. Hang on, Clav. I'm literally doing the opposite. I'm actually giving you the chance to say you're not one of those right-wing guys. That you don't idolize Hitler.
There you go.
That you don't
for the sixth time.
Well,
I just said I'm not political.
Yes,
okay, that's my comment. Okay. So it's like if you're gonna make me come on here and denounce like every single political figure, I'm not political. That's all you're getting, Piers. That's all you're getting. I'm not political whatsoever.
I think all of these guys have learned from Andrew Tate. Like Andrew Tate, obviously it's a different position, but right after that whole thing where they played like that Kanye song in the car and in the club, it felt like people were trying to get Tate to like, get on a bended knee and like almost apologize and denounce everything. And I think the other guys realized like the audience didn't really like that about Tate. They like Tate when he's popping his shit, never bending, right? Pause. And I think the other guys, including even Clav, who's not political really, but he's like, nah, I'm not coming on here to apologize for nothing. What are you talking about? Like,
anyway, okay, Clav, so back to looksmaxing. Back to looksmaxing, Piers.
I understand.
Like, you're not going to have this gotcha moment where you
I'm going to try. Okay, it's not a gotcha moment. You were singing Heil Hitler, right? You made it political, not me. As I said to you at the start of the interview, I will always challenge people on what comes out of their mouths. You were singing Heil Hitler with a bunch of people, some of whom have been brazenly anti-Semitic. I'm simply asking you, do you feel comfortable looking back on that video? Do you wish you hadn't done it? And do you understand why people were so offended by it?
Yeah, I absolutely understand why people are offended by it. But at the end of the day, it's like something that went viral and, like I'm a content creator, but it was sort of more of a headache than it was a positive. So at the end of the day, and I'm not political. And this is kind of like what happened was now people are asking me all these questions about podcasts. So it's just really not something that I want anything to do with in terms of like my content to do political stuff, to do any of these like huge PR stunts. You know what I mean? So I'm simply here to advocate for, men's issues and looksmaxing. So that sort of distracted from that a little bit. So that was never the goal.
I get it, which is what I thought would be the case. So just to conclude that, not going to overrate it.
Okay, you don't have to keep going for clarifications. It's like I told you.
I'm not asking for. I'm not asking for clarification.
That's
I'm
all
asking
I'm going to say about it.
One more question about it. Given what you've just
said, I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer. So move on.
Okay, all right. We have another question. Yeah.
I'm not answering your questions about politics anymore. So this is exactly what Knowles did to me that landed me in a lot of trouble with the whole thing about JD Vance. Is like now I attacked JD simply because, and I was trying to comment on looks, right? But this went viral all over Twitter and it distracted from my message. So that this is not like something that I want to keep happening where it's like,
By the way, I'm with Clav on this. You know, I rock with Clav. Like, I think he's a really smart kid. He's basically saying, yo, you're trying to get me to make a political take. I don't do politics. I'm here to give advice on how people could look better. That's been my lane. Don't ask me about whether I think Hitler was a good person, if the song was good, what do I think about the people who played. No, don't ask me about that shit. Ask me about what I'm good at, because I don't use my platform to speak on those things. I think that's really, you know, smart of him, because he did get in trouble. He did another interview previously, by the way, where he was talking about like he was literally just critiquing JD Vance from a looks perspective, and they made it like, oh, this is his political take. He's getting at JD Vance, right? Like, you know, it's not that he's doing the looksmaxing anymore. He's a politics guy. And also the thing too is that when you're like in the realm of like, say, a Myron Gaines, you're around Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, they want to put you as far right, and they kind of want to call you like an extremist or racist or something to kind of like, you know, lump you in with the people that they feel mainstream shouldn't pay attention to. So I think he's trying to avoid that.
Simply make a comment about someone's body fat percentage, and all of a sudden I'm a left winger, I'm a Democrat, I support Newsom. It's like, no, I just simply said that he's fat, right? Like I didn't support anyone's
had you
campaign.
waited, Clav, you're getting ahead of yourself, because had you waited, I'd have said I totally understood what you were doing with JD Vance and Gavin Newsom. You weren't making a political statement. You were making an aesthetic statement. I didn't think you got political there. You were simply saying JD Vance looks a certain way, Gavin Newsom looks a certain way. For your look-maxing aspirations for people, Newsom ticks more boxes than JD Vance, right?
I said that he mogs him, yes.
Yeah, so I got that, and that's why I didn't think that was political at all. My last question on the other matter, and you don't have to answer, but I'm going to ask you the question, is given what you said about understanding why it offended people, wishing you hadn't done it and so on, would you like to apologize for being involved in that?
I didn't play the song, so I've got nothing to say about that.
You're not sorry about singing along to it?
I had nothing to do with it, Piers, at the end of the day.
You did sing it?
Had nothing to do with it, Piers. Like, I don't know why you're trying to, constantly circle back. It's like, I'm not political.
No, I'm not. I
answered
just,
it.
okay, I've tried.
That all
I've given you three. I've just given you three opportunities, given you expressed regret for people who were offended and so on, to apologize. You've chosen not to. You don't have to. I'm not forcing you. I'm not trying to gotcha you.
Would you like to apologize for being with Ghislaine Maxwell and being in the Epstein files?
No.
Would you like to apologize for that?
No, because I've told you I'm in the Epstein files.
No apology. Based. Yeah,
No,
Epstein had aura.
You don't understand. You don't understand.
Epstein had aura, Piers. W admit.
Sorry?
Are you saying he had aura, so you're not going to apologize?
No, what do you think I'm apologizing for?
Well, you just said you're not going to apologize.
What do you want me to apologize for?
For being involved with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein.
Well, obviously, as I said to you, I never met Epstein or had anything to do with him. None of the references to me in the Epstein
You got a Piers Morgan.
files show any improper behavior at all. I'm simply mentioned in references to disconnected events like luncheons and so on that had nothing to do with him or Maxwell. And I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes at a book launch where we talked about her father, Robert Maxwell, who owned the newspaper that I was the editor of for 10 years after he died. So there's nothing to apologize for. Whereas in your case, because you've expressed regret over being caught up in a situation that you said was out of your control, I don't think it's unreasonable of me to say, well, are you sorry? If you're not, you're not. If you are, now's your chance.
Well, listen, we've talked about, all those situations. So like, I think if you have any other questions, we could just move on to that, and I won't bring up your involvement with Ghislaine Maxwell.
No, you can. You can talk about that as much as you want. Very happy to. If you have any supplementary questions.
Well, I'm here to talk about looksmaxing, like I told your production team. So
but the difference is, I don't mind you. I don't mind. I have no problem with you talking to me about Ghislaine Maxwell or Epstein or the scandal or anything. If
I would hope not, because you're a political commentator. I'm not. That's. I would hope you wouldn't have a problem with that, because that's literally your job. But it's not my job to sit here and talk about all of these different political issues. It's really not my job. Right. It's not something.
Well, can I offer you? Look, I have 3 sons, right? And they're a bit older than you. If you were my son, I'd be applauding you for the amazing business you've built for yourself. I think a lot of what you do in the self-improvement thing is perfectly laudable. I think there are some parts of it, which I'll come to, which are a little bit more concerning. But if one of my sons was caught in a van with a bunch of people, some of whom have been proudly anti-Semitic, and they were singing along to a song called Heil Hitler, I'd have a firm word with them, and I'd get them to apologize to people who were rightly disgusted. You've chosen not to, and that's fine. I'm not gotchering you. I'm just saying, do you feel sorry? If you don't, you don't.
Don't worry, your sons will never have as successful of a media career as me, so you won't have to worry about any PR disasters. I'm
sure you're right.
Like, for the love of God, are you ever to move on from this line of questioning? Yes. Or
I'm going to move on now. I'm going to move on now. There's a thing called bone smashing. Now, this is the bit that I find concerning. This is a dangerous and pretty discontinued and discouraged practice of actually hitting bones in your face to create a more chiseled look. Have you done this, and do you encourage people to do it?
Yeah, so I have done this. This is something that was part of my routine for years, and still is. The problem is there is sort of a barrier to entry to all this stuff that comes with just, intelligence, right? So if you tell people about bone smashing and they're super low IQ, they might, hit themselves in the eye and cause a lot of trauma or, severe harm to themselves. So like, these are things that could be very dangerous if, done improperly, but also things that can have a lot of benefit. And this is always the nuance that I give. So it's sort of a double-edged sword on whether or not I recommend it. It's like, if done properly with the proper precautions, it can be a good thing, and it will be a good thing, but there is a lot of risk involved.
See, I just don't think smashing your face up is a good thing to be encouraging anyone to do.
Okay, well, tell me why not.
Because I think the obvious potential downside massively outweighs any potential upside. And there's also a kind of wider point I'd say to you, which is, well, to me, like, my overriding view of your whole sort of philosophy about
No, but like, why do you not recommend bone smashing? What's actually wrong with it?
Well, self-evidently, because smashing, I can tell you why I don't recommend bone smashing. I literally smashed a bone 5 weeks ago. I broke my femur falling over, needed a hip replacement. It's wrecked my life for the last 5 weeks. I can't.
Well, we're talking about very intentional, localized microtrauma.
I know.
Talking about falling over and breaking your hip.
Yeah, I know.
So are you saying it's not possible for you to have, a semblance of precision to not just completely shatter your orbital rim or something? Like, it seems like a very easy thing to do. I think my overriding question about all of this for you is, so what's wrong with it?
What's wrong with bone smashing? Hang on. Well, I don't think it's a good idea to encourage people. If you do,
but why?
Perfectly entitled to. If you've done it and it worked for you, great. And I don't dispute that you look good, right? You're a good-looking young man, no problem. You've been very successful with your philosophy. Okay, these things are just a given. But I've met a lot of very good-looking people in my career, and a lot of them end up miserable, right? Because their looks eventually fade and they can't deal with it, and they end up turning to drink and drugs, and they're depressed, and it's awful to watch because they pride aesthetics over things that are more important. Character, for example, your personality, intelligence, education, wisdom, all these sort of things. In other words, things.
Why
that
are you
not
doing the same
aesthetic.
thing where you make it mutually exclusive? They're not mutually exclusive at all.
Well, I'm
None
not.
of the
I'm
things
not.
that you just
I'm not.
mentioned.
I'm not. But are you not concerned that partly this is driven by insecurity on your part?
No, I would say that that would be applicable to most people in the looks maxing scene. So I don't think that's a bad argument for you to give. But for me, for my specific case, it's based on objectivity, right? It's based on real world data that shows looks are extremely important in the workplace. Looks are extremely important in dating. So that's kind of the reason that I go about looks maxing, but that might not be so true for everyone.
I want to just mention some famous men who I would argue are better looking than you, despite not having pursued a life of looks maxing. This is just my objective opinion. Robert Redford, Paul Newman, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Cristiano Ronaldo. There's 5. What's your response?
My response is Brad Pitt has had multiple facelifts. Cristiano Ronaldo has had a lot of dental work done. People have speculated that he's had some work done on his jaw with filler. So all these people, if you think that they're not looks maxing, Hollywood actors, that's just completely ignorant and a little bit silly almost.
That wasn't what I said. I just said that they are potentially better looking than you. How do you plead to that?
Yeah, and I really wouldn't have a problem with that argument. Like, I don't really
Piers
think
is trying to trigger this nigga so bad.
that I'm like, the top echelon of looks. I would say that I'm probably above average in my looks, but it's not, a hill for me to die on to say, oh, I'm the best looking person ever. That would be a ridiculous argument, and it's not one that I've ever made, right? So to just name 5
who
people
is,
that are better
in your
looking than me.
estimation, who is the best looking person in the world? And
I think Piers want to put this interview in a particular place where he could chalk it up as we exposed him for being an insecure kid about his looks. So he's throwing things at like, oh, I know 5 people that's more attractive than you. Are you mad about it? He's like, no, I'm not. And now he's like, all right, so he's trying to trigger him.
And who's the best looking person ever?
Oh, that's a tough one. The best looking person ever, well, we might not know who that is, but certainly, what I've said when this question is asked is based on objective mathematics. Matt Bomer scores the highest in terms of facial harmony. But there are some other things that go into it, like, coloring, like angularity, and dimorphism. So, while that's true about the objective harmony measurements, it would take a little bit of thinking to kind of determine, and maybe some surveys.
And what about women? Because I was very surprised about what you said about Sydney Sweeney. You said I would say that she's pretty malformed. Her upper maxilla is extremely recessed. She's got the eyes of doom with no infraorbital support. She's not really that much of a looker in her face. I think that a lot of people with porn brains find her attractive because of her body. I mean, very ungentlemanly comments. And secondly, you couldn't be more wrong. I mean, she's like the hottest sex symbol in Hollywood right now.
Well, yeah, but like I said, that's because a lot of male society is obsessed with pornography. They're gooners, right? So that sort of body type and that sort of archetype is sort of what they're looking for. And this is sort of true about most of the famous OnlyFans models, most of the famous porn stars, is they don't have model faces, right? They would never be seen on a Victoria's Secret runway. They simply have big tits and big asses. Excuse my language.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't know if this was like a live thing or not on a media network. I don't know how this
Oh no,
works.
no, no, no! I don't mind your language. It's uncensored. You can say what the hell you like. I'm just curious what you
Oh,
have a problem with your problem with those particular women's body part measurements.
I don't think it's a problem at all, but it only becomes a problem to me when you sort of place these things higher than the face in terms of sexual desire, right? I think a girl with a good face is, a lot more desirable than these, sort of curvy models who don't necessarily have good bone structure facially. They've got a lot of, phalos. They've got recessed convexities. So like that sort of thing is not really what I'm into. The whole Sydney Sweeney look.
Do you not think it sounds a bit misogynist, though? Can't you give women a bit more of a break? I mean, to study them in such extraordinarily pedantic detail, overanalyzing every inch of their aesthetics, and if they don't reach your high levels of maxing, then they must be rubbished.
Give women a break. I mean, women won't even look at a man who's under 6 foot as a human in a lot of cases. Like, what are we talking about? They are the most fucking brutal gender, and this is the most brutal dating market that we've ever been in. So for you to sit here and tell me that I'm being too mean or I'm not being gentlemanly, it's just a little bit silly. We just have to look on the other side of the aisle to see what's going on, and I think you'll find me pretty justified.
If your theory is right that transmaxing is the only route.
All right. I think I've seen enough. The intense back and forth happened already. All right, people. I am going to call it here. You'll see me back later for the stream. I do appreciate you guys for rocking with me. Damn, I damn near did 2 hours. I only have to do an hour of gambling. We gambled for an hour and like 30, and then we just kind of watched this. I like this guy Clav, yo. You know, obviously, I think he has a lot more to learn, like we all do. But I do think for his age, he's well accomplished, and I definitely believe that he's well spoken. And I'm interested to see where his path lies. Obviously, I do know some people, they've told me that he uses some objectionable language when speaking about race or whatever else. That's something I haven't witnessed in person. So I'm not saying he doesn't or he does do it. But I think that's something, I don't know how you guys feel about stuff like that. Might have to just get that nigga in line, right? Like, rather than just say, fuck him, right? He looks like he's going to be around the space. If he was using those type of language around me, obviously, I'd pull him to the side and, have a good conversation with him. Like, yo, bro, that's not how it's going to happen. And hopefully, he's genuinely not racist, right? But if he is, I mean, obviously we can't do nothing with it. But hopefully, unfortunately, maybe he's just acting his age on that one particular thing. We'll see. We'll keep it, I'll keep monitoring the situation. We'll see where we get from there. Okay, I'll be back on later on. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for, just popping in and just kind of seeing what I'm up to. I did my gambling stream. Be back for the main stream later. Peace.